Our next presentation is Construction Cloud from Sydney, Australia, University of Technology, Sydney.
Last week, two of the largest infrastructure projects in Australia's history became our first customers. Means over $100,000 in revenue. You're about to find out why. Large-scale infrastructure construction underpins the entire economy. It affects you when you drive to work and when you buy your groceries. Will, you would know, after the last 3 or 4 years, the construction industry has rebounded from the global financial crisis. The construction industry has got a major problem. We are not able to control and manage the sheer quantity of multimedia data that is collected. This endangers people's lives and undermines productivity. Solving this problem in Australia led to our first customers. My name's Hartley. I'm a construction engineer. Drones, time-lapse cameras, and smartphones are used to capture millions of multimedia files over the course of infrastructure projects. This tells us stories of what is happening right now and how things were done in the past. Unfortunately, 75% of this data is lost. The story is left incomplete. According to 21 project managers that we interviewed in Australia, every single project has exactly the same problem. Since the VT challenge started this morning, 13 people have died on US construction sites. This problem undermines productivity as people waste time. This problem causes significant legal risk relating to quality standards. Construction Cloud is the collaborative solution to this problem. Mobile and web application that manages all visual information and multimedia data. We do not live in a paper world anymore. We live in a multimedia world. A multimedia asset is created through a real-time project management tool. This can then be produced in court and used as evidence. Our users describe Construction Cloud as a game changer due to the visual nature of the system. We conducted a case study, which you can see here, a $2.6 billion tunnel project in Sydney. Here it was revealed that this is a $10 million problem. Using Construction Cloud, this project has reduced risk to safety, monitoring from the skies above using drones. Productivity is boosted. Real-time information from the work front to each person's mobile device. Significant legal risk reduction. Photos illustrate and capture complex quality records. The project director acknowledged our value and requested a subscription across their entire project. $5 million saved for our first partner and our first subscription. Our competitors are paper-bound. Guys on the left, documents into the cloud. Unfortunately, we do not live in a paper world anymore. Companies on the right, they work with vertical construction, buildings, residential and commercial. Information needs to be tagged onto a plan drawing. This is not appropriate when you have 40 miles of road to be constructed. Construction Cloud has redefined the software market for horizontal construction projects. Instead of competing with traditional document management systems, we've created a new market. We all know that software cannot be protected with patents. Means our focus now is execution and speed to market. It is more likely that someone acquires us as a team rather than try to copycat our product.
We have all core competencies in the team. Hartley knows the market and talks the language of our customers. Sam, an awarded design expert. His last app is now being used by over 15,000 people across Australia. And myself, I started my own software company at the age of 16 and already brought to market 3 new businesses at Europe's largest energy utility. The majority of our team, tech talents. Our mentors. Laurent, Harvard MBA and founder of a Chinese startup with $40 million of funding. Peter, global commercialization expert in over 10 countries. Tony, B2B sales, closed software contracts worth more than $20 million. And Chris. Chris holds 42 patents and already exited 2 companies. Earlier this year, we received a research grant from the Australian government. We also received a sponsorship from Amazon Web Services, $20,000, and another sponsorship from our home university, also $20,000. Our first market entry point, tunnel construction. We recently subscribed a $2.6 billion project. Number 2, highways construction. We also subscribed a $1.6 billion project. And number 3, bridge construction. We also subscribed an 80 million bridge construction project. Channels to market. Number 1, our strategic partnership with an Australian drone company. Number 2, the Australian government already started introducing us to their contractors. Number 2, referrals. And number 4, conferences.
The market capture plan. Product development completed in May. As Jan mentioned, we have already established our beta customers. Next steps for us: win the VT competition and secure seed round funding. This will be used to build a sales team and start to grow across the global market.
Our market entry consists of over 100,000 companies in the Australian construction industry. This industry generated last year $165 billion in revenue. We anticipate to capture $104 million market size, total market size, based on the first revenue we generated with our first customers. This industry is predicted to grow at 3.5% annually. All data is sourced from IBIS World. For the end of 2016, we aim to acquire 10 of the largest construction companies in Australia, leading to $360,000 in revenue and $490,000 in annual expenses. Assumption here, 7 out of 10 customers actually buy. For the end of 2017, we aim to acquire 50 of the largest construction companies. Assumption here, seed funding already has been attracted. For the end of 2018, a global expansion is likely, leading to 3.7 million in revenue and $1.7 million in annual expenses.
As Jan mentioned, we have a global vision for 2018. We're confident because we're already off and running with the world's largest construction companies. As you can see, they operate around the world. Our partnership in Australia with Amazon Web Services means that our servers can instantly reach these projects with the click of a single button.
Market sizes: Germany, 200 million, USA, 900 million, Middle East with 1.4 billion, and China with $1.8 billion in potential revenue per year.
Risks when entering new markets. Less prospects than our 7 out of 10 assumption buy our service. Number 2, varying needs and requirements as we enter different construction markets. Requirements, different taxation and legal framework for our business. And finally, variations in data privacy standards in different countries.
We are here today to seek $500,000 in seed funding with a pre-money valuation of $3.7 million, leading to 13% of preference A shares in equity. Our first client already expressed interest in acquiring our company. So an acquisition is actually the most likely exit in this case. Exit target valuation $40 million. Return on investment in this case, $5 million. We hope we have inspired you today in the same way we inspired our customers in Australia and also our host company, Branch. We are really looking forward to work with local projects in the community here in Virginia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, guys. That was excellent. Quick question. Is there any kind of metadata that's being stored alongside these photos that would make them more valuable? Things like location, time, other pieces of information that has to be entered or will be stored with them?
Thanks, Robert. I will refer to an additional slide here where I can show you an example of the product. This is a run through from when the user opens the mobile application on site. Their first option is to select the area of the project and the work package. An image or a video is captured in this case, and as you can see, there's 5 levels of metadata. It's who, what, when, where, and why. The image is what, who is the user account, why, a brief description about what they're looking at, when, date and time stamp, where, the GPS location service, which is the key differentiator from us and other construction software providers.
When you were sharing examples of the 3 customers that you said you had subscribed, I just want to make sure I understand when you say subscribe, are they truly on a subscription service, meaning that it's renewable recurring revenue, or is it job specific to that tunnel project or bridge project, and when that ends, the $100,000 covers that whole time span, or I was a little unclear about that.
Sure. Do you want to answer?
Sure. So far, the 3 projects that we showed during the presentation were what we call mega or large projects. They subscribe on a project basis because of the nature and the size of the project. This means it's an annuity for the duration of the project. That's our strategy for entering a company. Once we have secured one project with one company, our plan is to spread across multiple projects under an enterprise agreement. With smaller SMEs, which we have also engaged, just couldn't show here due to time restrictions, they subscribe their company. They have smaller projects across a larger area, and they go on a company basis.
And one quick technical question to follow on. What's the latency between the drone photo image and the time that you bring it back to the cloud and your client has access to it?
Just so I understand correctly, yes, an example scenario would be drone goes up, captures some footage. When can I see that? On the computer or on my mobile device?
Right.
So there's a couple of things with this. Number one, it depends if the construction company is using their own drone or if they're using one of our strategic partners. If we say they're using a strategic partner, just as an example, they have to take the drone up, capture the footage. Now, instead of storing the footage on a local server, a local folder, which is what usually happens, they upload to the system. So it's basically as soon as the drone lands.
Is the client the contractor, or is it collaborative with the project client, meaning the public agency, and then subcontractors? And so is everybody pumping data to this cloud, and if so, who owns it? Who owns the data?
So the first question to answer is who owns it, and it is the contractor. This diagram here shows a cost structure for one project. The contractor subscribes, we receive a subscription fee, they receive the software, the storage, and they own the data. Our early customers have required that subs are also, subcontractors, just for everybody who's not in construction, is also able to access data, which means that the fee can be passed on to them at the contractor's discretion. In addition, there's various stakeholders involved in these types of projects. The one just outside of town here obviously has VDOT as well as the local airport. In that case, certain information can be shared with them at the contractor's discretion. It's up to the guys on site what they want to share, what they don't want to share.
So I think you've shown well that there is a need for this. I'm trying to understand the barriers to entry. So for me, you know, I'm wondering what would prevent me from doing this, or more likely a large technology company from doing exactly what you're doing. And part of that is your own intellectual property, but then you've got competitors that you described as vertical players that already have these relationships. It doesn't, to me, seem that difficult for them to realize that there's an opportunity here. And part of it might have to do with what you were describing, and these are my words, not yours, but sort of predictive data analytics. And maybe I'm using those words incorrectly, but maybe you could just sort of elaborate on what's to prevent somebody else from trying to do exactly what you're doing.
Thanks. That's a great question, and it's good to discuss more. With the vertical players, so you mentioned those first, what we've found, and those within the industry will know that roads are completely different from the guys who build verticals. Similar with the software, we've seen that PlanGrid, FieldWire, FieldLens are built by builders, not by road builders. And it may not seem like a big difference, but the reason we're pushing for GPS is because of that. You cannot simply go and put data all over drawings when you've got a massive tunnel to be built. It just doesn't make sense. That's our entry. To stop other people doing it, we know and we said that you can't patent this to stop people doing it, which is why we're raising the money to build our team quickly and capture market share as quickly as possible.
So how much customization for each project does this software need? Or is this kind of like you're going to leave it up to the user to basically customize it for their project?
So there's a couple of points on this one. The first point is to define your project structure, which is like a scope of the job. An example would be earthworks or excavation, drainage works, structures like bridges, retaining walls, and also the road pavement, just as a few basic examples. On the mega projects, we work with the team to help them define that scope because it is quite complex. Smaller companies are able to do that themselves through some online training. What you see on the screen here is a pricing breakdown. The far right is the enterprise agreement, which is for the largest type of projects. You can see that these guys get custom setup, project-specific onboarding, and also the integration with various devices. That's due to the complexity. So the reason the enterprise pricing is different from the rest is because we have to take it case by case.
All right, so there's quite a bit of support that you folks are going to be offering, and I guess that's where your experience in the construction industry. I mean, so there's going to probably be a lot of demand on folks like yourself in the business that, you know, to help customize on, especially if the people buy the enterprise one, I presume.
That's correct. That's the reason we are also raising money to get more people like me who can support our customers. Only to add to that, this is the pricing we've been testing in the market within the last couple of months. You can see for SMEs, it ranges from $9 up to $15 with an enterprise option available for larger mega projects.
And only to give you a range of the size of mega projects, so we are talking actually of 200 to 300 people using the system on one single project, so that you understand the size of it, right, and the support that it's actually required to set up the system for them.
Not including stakeholders and subcontractors, yes. So that would add.
But at the end of the day, your product is really basically a database of all the multimedia files that associated with the project, you know, time and date stamped and location stamped and so forth. So you have this large database which is in the cloud, which anybody working on the project can get access to at any time, or maybe years later if somebody has a legal claim on the way a project was built or something like that. Is that basically what the product is?
It tells a story from the day the guys set up and established their site, all the way throughout the couple of years, 3, 4, sometimes 5-year construction period, right up until they reach the end when the road, bridge or tunnel is open to the public. This means they can look back at any stage, pick out something that might have gone wrong and quickly resolve it, whether it was their issue or they can prove accountability upon other parties.
Okay, got it.
Perhaps to give the example with the property team on our first customer, this would clarify a little bit.
An example from the tunnel project that we displayed earlier, $2.6 billion. They have 2,000 local residents within proximity of the construction area. To give you an indication of the amount of multimedia files, they have 500,000 files from insides of people's homes looking for cracks, damages, etc., so that once the tunnel is finished, they can go back and check and make sure that any cracks, damages, defects were there existing beforehand, so that the contractor doesn't have to go around repairing everybody's house.
All right, so just to be sure, one of your options is you're going to take a drone and you're going to fly it every day on the same path and take the same pictures, and it's going to upload it into the cloud. And so just every day you're going to take that shot. Is that one of the options here?
That can be done for sure, as well as time lapse. So it can either be a fixed camera, a drone, or the most common, about 70% so far of the data we've seen is off a smartphone, because guys have it on them all the time. 10% roughly drone footage, and 20% time lapse, because there's so many GoPros. Guys are just out there doing their own time lapse shots.
So do we have time for one or two questions? Okay, some questions from the audience here. You talked about safety and deaths, but how is your service going to increase safetiness on the construction site?
I'm glad I got to show this example because it's the most important one.
Yes.
Everybody knows that there's a lot of pipes under the ground, and the footage you saw at the start was what happens when an excavator hits a gas pipe. Services, which are basically pipes under the ground with either optic fiber for communication, gas for people's homes, high voltage electricity. These are big hazards for construction teams, and a lot of the time there is a survey that is picked up. This is frequently missing pieces, and it's also just a line on a piece of paper. It doesn't actually show you what was underneath the ground when the people there built it. What Construction Cloud allows the team to do is capture an image, a video, anything at the time of installation, pull it up at a later date on the web interface, and actually see all of the services under the ground. Combined with the GPS metadata tagging, this reduces the likelihood that another team at a later date comes in and actually digs up those electric or those gas pipes.
Okay, we time. One more. So what is the difference from this and versus like iCloud or any other cloud services?
The biggest difference is the fact that it's collaborative. A lot of those services are individual for people. You can share things, but it's basically for self photos of yourself and your family and friends.
The best description is always, all the time, Dropbox, G Drive or iCloud actually transfer the local problem to the cloud. They don't solve the problem. And that's the major difference.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.